Alright, first I got to filter out the little chunks of steel wool that are in there before I go about dipping into it. Alright, so I filtered it out, and I filtered it out into something else. You can see there's no steel wool in there. You don't want that to interfere. So I'm going to start with the buttstock. And you just kind of wipe it on there as if you're wiping on a stain. And I might end up only doing one coat. Remember how I said this stuff's been sitting for a while? See how dark that is? Thinking that might only need one coat of the stain here. It's starting to look like a real walnut, you know, that's what the wood is. It's walnut. For those that do know about their Model 91s. I'm sorry, for those that do know about their Model 94s. I like that. I can't wait to see how it comes out. I'll let this dry out and see if it needs any more on it. And when you're wiping it on there, if you're using a cloth, if you see that any part of your cloth has come off and on there, make sure and get it off of there. Oh man, might be calling this thing Black Beauty. Look at that, I like that. Go around and kind of look for some areas that I might have missed, and sometimes it's hard to tell because this stuff dries up really fast on, you know, such a hot day. Now I'm curious to see, after staining this, how it comes out, because before, like I pointed out, the main reason I wanted to refinish this gun was because the stocks were they were unmatching. They didn't match. I mean, it's one thing, the grain of the wood is going, you know, two opposite ways. I'm okay with that, but the color of them wasn't matching, so it's like the lighter. It was lighter on the front than it was on the buttstock. We'll see if this does anything, which I'm hoping it does. And if not, well, what I can do is, if the front does come out lighter than the buttstock of it again, what I'll end up doing is I'll just end up staining, you know, putting another coat on the front and see how close I can get to matching the buttstock of it. So there's always ways around things. Look at that. If you look at that, you can see the difference, because the inside I didn't sand it. Kind of give you an idea there. There we go. Alright, now I'll let this sit and dry. Sometimes it doesn't take that long. Definitely, though, I'd let it dry for 24 hours before putting a clear coat over it. Alright, now let it hang and dry. Okay, so after drying for 24 hours, this is what it came out. Nice and dark. I'm happy with it. And that was after just one coat. Sometimes what I end up doing is, if I want it darker and darker and darker, I just continuously have to let it dry, put another coat, and continuous. So in here, like I was talking about when sanding, making sure you got everything off of there, because if you don't, this is what's going to happen here. You can see around there. I wasn't worried about that. Remember, I was talking about I can only sand in so far. I'm sure if I really worked at it, I could have got in there. But that's where the bracket's going to cover that, so I'm not worried about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wipe them down with just a damp rag before I put my clear coat on, just to make sure there's absolutely nothing on there that's going to interfere. So you just take a damp rag, wipe it down, make sure everything's off. Even your fingerprints, so wherever you wipe it off, make sure you don't touch it. Otherwise you'll have your fingerprints on there. Okay, and then what I'm going to use today for my clear coat, again, I have my tung oil that I regularly use, but I'm going to be using the high gloss finish. So hopefully it's going to sparkle just a little bit more. And I'll go ahead and get started. And what you want to do is you want to start with just putting a thin coat on there. That way you're not worried about putting any runs in it. And what you do is you just continue to put thin coats on, and they build up. And that's what it's going to look like there. Give you a little comparison. So I'll put a coat on, and we'll see how it turns out. If I'm not too happy with it, I will end up screening it. See, right now you can't really see you want to make sure and follow through, either from whether you work from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. Follow that through so you put equal amount on. And another thing to do is after you put a coat on there, just to make sure you don't have any runs in it, after you hang it or whatever you're going to do with it for it to dry, I always end up going back and taking a look at it just to make sure that no runs are in it, because if you have any runs in it, you're going to have to correct that, which means you might have to screen it. And if you're on, say, the last coat and you're going to screen it, it doesn't work out all the time. I'm talking about screening it in order to get rid of your run. So, okay, so I gave it 4 hours. It's dried out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen it. And the steel wool I have, it's the finest steel wool. You can find it's the 4 zeros. So I just I'm gonna lightly go over it. Kind of smooth it out. And you want to just continuously go with the grain. You never want to go against it, just as if you're sanding it. If you're familiar with that, obviously you know, and if not, I hope I'm helping you out. So you don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on it, just lightly go over it. And this isn't something you necessarily have to do every time. I usually put on a few coats before I end up screening it. It's just this time here I'm not really satisfied with the first coat that I put on, and so this is what I'll do to fix to hopefully bring out the shine in it a little better. Okay, and you can kind of see it in this guy here. I don't know if you can see it as well as I can. But it's like you can kind of see where it took to it, and then you can see where it didn't necessarily. So we'll screen all that and get that out of there. You want to be able to see the grain in the wood. And there, that kind of messes it up. So if you were to put a second coat on that, you'd mess it up even more. So you're better off just screening it and going back over it again. And you'll catch that after putting on the first coat. If you put on the first coat and it looks good, then you're good to go. And if there are some parts you have to screen against the grain, like so, just make sure you go with it after going against it to correct it. Okay. So now I've got my damp rag here. I'll wipe it down. You make sure get everything off of there so it doesn't interfere with the clear coat you're going to be putting it on. And that also goes for after wiping it down, your fingerprints. Like right now my fingerprints are on here, so got to hold on to it elsewhere. Bring that off. This part of the stock, I was happy with the way it came out, but you want it all to match. So if you use the steel wool on one side, you use it on the other, and keep it all even. Alright, for this coat here, this time around, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up wiping it on there. I've never done it. I've always just brushed on it, but from what I've heard, wiping it on there works just fine too, if not sometimes better. So I'm gonna give it a shot and we'll see how it comes out. With wiping it on there, you can, I don't know about keep better control of how much you're putting on there, but gives you a better idea. You kind of have the feel of it. Just kind of wipe it on there. Wipe it on there and then kind of follow the shadow as you wipe it on. You can see where it's going on and where it's not. I don't know if you can see that line. You can see it's gone on over here and not over here. Okay, I've now got 3 clear coats on it. Really happy with the way it's come out. Just to thicken that up, I'm gonna put 2 more coats on. So what I'll do with this one here is I'm gonna really lightly screen it because it's really nice, really smooth. I'm just putting the next 2 coats on just to kind of thicken it up. So just really lightly go over it. Don't want to take anything off. After screening it, I'm going to go ahead and just wipe it down. Make sure there's absolutely nothing on there. So I'll take a damp cloth, just wipe it down. As I wipe it down, I'll slide my hangers back into them. Alright, so now I'll start applying that fourth coat. You want to just kind of wipe it on as evenly as possible. It's coming out really nice. You want to wipe it on. Don't be pushing down too hard because you don't want to wipe it right off of there either. And you'll be able to you'll notice when you're kind of running out, you'll see that it's no longer putting any on there. So you want to make sure and keep it damp at all times. So like right now I can tell I'm kind of running out, so I'm gonna put a little more on. Okay, so after dyeing and refinishing the stocks, after 4 coats, this is what I've come up with, and I'm happy with it. I was looking for pretty much a black stock, but you can still see the wood in it. And at the beginning, while disassembling, I was talking about why I wanted to refinish the stock is because they were unmatching. Well, now they match. So let's go ahead and get started with putting her back together. So I'm going to kind of go in the order as for taking it apart. As for taking it apart, you know, I'd started with the butt stock part of it. So I'm going to start putting it back together as I was taking it apart, kind of rewinding it. So you want to make sure your plug's in there to start with. And then you just slide this guy in there. Should slide right in, and if it doesn't, like this one here, it's not just popping right in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it out, and I'll check for some buildup. That could be why it's not going in. And while I'm at it, I'll be checking around here too, because putting the clear coat on there, it might have built up inside there. So what you want to do is you'll take there's probably other ways to do it. I just take a razor and kind of cut along, just let it ride. I'm not putting any pressure to it, but I'll ride along the inside, and I'll turn it over, and I'm going to ride along the inside again, cutting away any buildup that could be in there. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and scrape around it, and I can see there is a little bit of a buildup in there. It's coming off the side that wasn't going in. I don't see a lot in there, so I'm just going to kind of scrape around it. Blow it off. A little bit did come off. I'll go back to trying to put it in its place. Slides right in. And I've got the bracket here. Then I'm going to slide on there. Again, make sure it's going in the right direction. The bigger part of it's going to go towards the bottom. The smaller part of it goes towards the top. Just slide that guy on there. Goes right in. And like I was talking about when I had stained it, actually while I was sanding it, I was telling you about where I was unable to sand into, which was right here, but I wasn't worried about it because of this bracket here was just going to cover it up like so. So we got that in there, and then we got our long screw. It only goes in one way, and you can tell looking at this bracket part of it, it has an opening for the screw to go right into. Just like that. So before we put that all the way in, go ahead and slide this guy in. Just like that. When you're sliding this in too, it's got to line up with the barrel. Just like that there, because when you're putting this screw in here, it's going to follow all the way through here, and it's going to connect with the barrel to hold it in place. So you want to make sure that lines up just right. Okay, so the lower part of this of the rifle here that holds the spring in it, there's only one way that it goes in the correct way. I'm not sure if I pointed it out on this video while pulling it apart, but you have the small hole here, which is what meets up with the barrel here, and there's the big hole there. So you want to slide that guy in, and I take the longer screw that goes down here just to make sure it lines up, so you can kind of look at it, see it's lining up. But just put this guy in there. See, I had to push it in just a little bit more. Alright, so we'll take that, put it back in its place, slide that on there, and I'll go ahead and tighten up this screw here, because that's not going to go anywhere. And I won't snug it up or anything, just kind of put it in. Okay. And then before tightening up here and pinching it, we're going to put our spring back in. Now, if you've got a newer Model 94, or you've just replaced the spring, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of tension on it. It's going to be really hard to get in there. This being an older rifle, I don't have any trouble putting the spring back in there. So we'll put the spring in. Okay, while you're putting that in, take a second and look over. Before you tighten it up too much, make sure it's lining up with your barrel in there, because there's that little hole it's going to go into. And when you're done, it should fit flush right there if it's in right. Okay. And our last screw down here, it only goes in one way also. Just like that. And you can see it's notched here on each side of the barrel, and the part where the spring is, there's a notch inside there. Helps you to kind of line up where your screw's going to go. And that's it for that. We'll go ahead and put the stock on. So I'll open her up. And there's no buildup anywhere that I'm worried about. It's going to hold it back from sliding right on. So we'll just slide right on. And we'll tighten that up. The last thing to put on is the cover plate for the buttstock. Well, after doing this, I need a new cover plate for the buttstock. Maybe clean it up just a little bit better. But that's how it turned out. I'm absolutely satisfied. I'm happy with it. Looking at it now, my next project on this gun is what I'm going to be is I'm going to re-blue the receiver part of it. I think I'm going to re-blue that. So that'll be the next project for this gun. Hope you've liked the video. Hope I've been able to help you out if you're looking at refinishing a gun, maybe even just tearing apart the gun, cleaning it, and putting it back together. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks for watching.